Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Ruby. I am VP of Sales at CareSmartz. I have been in the home care tech space for several years now, helping agencies grow, scale, and most importantly, simplify operations using smarter tools. And I'm thrilled to have you join us for today's webinar, which is Workflow Automation for Home Care Agencies, the Human plus AI Edge. Before we get started, let's do a quick warm-up in the chat. Just type in where you're joining from. Maybe your city, state, country, if you're from the US or Canada, and also drop in your LinkedIn profile link. Let's connect and make this as a collaborative space. Okay, I am going to type in my LinkedIn profile as well. And we'll just spend a few minutes while everyone is typing in here. Okay. Oh, chat is disabled. All right, let me see. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, everyone. Attendees can chat with everyone. Okay, did it work? Yes, perfect. Thank you, Ali. We will repost our LinkedIn, Bob, real quick because it didn't go to everyone. Chicago, Mississippi, Arizona, Colorado, Pennsylvania, Delaware, Cincinnati, Ohio, Florida, Chicago, Virginia, Toronto. Such a good mix. Missouri, California. We're getting people from everywhere. Thank you so much for joining in. All right. Before we get started, a few housekeeping things here. This session is being recorded. We will be sending out this recording and slides within a few days of this webinar. All attendees are on mute for now, and we will keep things structured by answering all the questions at the end. But feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. I will be watching the space and we'll bring them into our Q&A session later. Here is what we will be covering today, starting with a brief introduction and a fireside chat kind of with our guest, Bob Roth, and then we'll get practical on how automation and AI are being used by agencies like yours. And we'll finish with your questions, some helpful resources, and if you are currently using any automation tools as we go, just to type in yes, no, or you are currently exploring what you are using, and we will make it, as I said, conversational. Let's get started then. Quick introduction for those of you unfamiliar with who CareSmartz360 is. We are an all-in-one platform, HIPAA compliant, and we support home care agencies in the US and Canada both, whether it's a caregiver engagement, billing, compliance, or real-time insights. We help you reduce admin burden and focus more on delivering care. That's what our goal is. That's what we do all day, every day with hundreds of agencies that are using CareSmartz. Now, I know you're all here for our guest. You're not here for me today. So joining me today is Bob Roth, Managing Partner of Cypress HomeCare Solutions and a nationally recognized thought leader. Bob brings decades of experience and real results in operational automation. And I know his perspective will resonate with many of you. Welcome, Bob. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Ruby, thank you. And it's good to see you again and participate in a forum like this to really talk about, innovation and talking about automation. I'm really, I looked at the chat and first of all, I love the fact that you're encouraging people to use LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a incredible social media platform. It's really the only one I use. I stay away from the other ones that have all those algorithms and do all the things that we hear about in the news. But it's a great way to really stay in touch with what's going on in a very fast-moving industry that we're in. And I encourage you to link into me, link into Ruby, and link into one another. But I got to tell you, Ruby, we have people here from Canada. We have people here from India. I mean, we are worldwide. So really, really cool that you brought this audience together. And thank you for having me as your guest today.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob. We're really excited. The topic is great. AI is not only a buzzword anymore, automation, operational efficiency, it all makes sense now in this. I don't want to call it chaotic environment, but it's complex. It's complex. So automation does
Good.
really help. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. Let's start with the backbone of any agency, your administrative workflows. When we talk to agency owners, and I talk to agency owners every single day, all day, the first pain point I hear is paperwork, intake forms, caregiver certifications, payroll, billing, EVV, claims, a lot of stuff. Um, but automation, it doesn't have to be complex. Something as simple as maybe digital intake forms, alerts, automation in terms of just getting notified of specific events that really, really matter to you. And that can save hours of work each week, hours of administrative burden each week. So, Bob, at Cypress, what was the first admin process you automated and what kind of impact did you see?
So I know that you have a bunch of listeners here that have never met me before and may not know who I am. So, let me take an opportunity just for a minute or two, just to say that, hey, Cypress Home Care Solutions, we're in our 31st year. We were founded in 1994. My journey is probably not too dissimilar to many of you that are on this webinar here today. I had a personal experience. I'm a consumer product goods person. I came up through the Quaker Oats company. I was an executive with them, ran the Gatorade business in the Northeast for 5 years, went to work for Dole Foods. I did a lot of different things, but my journey started with my mom, who suffered a major heart attack in 1985, January 2nd. And guess what, guys? In 1985, there was no such thing as assisted living, and there was no such thing as non-medical home care. So here we are, 40 years later. We started our company in 94. We went through a lot of different changes. I brought a culture of innovation, and in 2005, we built the very first in-home supportive care training lab. We had a training lab and two training centers in our confines of our operations, and we made national news for that. In 2013, 2014, we developed the dementia program, and in 2019, I took a leap of faith and joined the Honor Care Network, which many of you may or may not know. Honor ended up buying a little small franchise called Home Instead. I was part of that platform for a little more than 4 years. I broke off February 1st 2024 and literally started over again. I'm in my 2.0 version. Ruby and I got a chance to meet each other last year and got a chance to talk about some of the things that we're doing as it relates to innovation. For me, I was attached to nothing operationally that we were doing in the past. For literally the 25 years that we were operating in the past, I shut that all down and partnered with Honor. So when I pulled out of Honor, I needed to rebuild and start all over again. So Ruby, I wanted to bring people up to speed. The story is a little bit longer than that, and I don't want to take too much time talking about Cypress and me. I want to talk about automation and workflow. So when we came out of that, we needed to figure out how to operate in this new paradigm because the world changed after COVID, changed dramatically after COVID. So here we are, we're in this new world and caregivers weren't coming to us anymore. We needed to go to them. And that was really hard because we were still going to them and we were manually texting them the week before, an hour before, 20% or more still no call, no shows. And I'm sending people into people's homes. I'm sorry, into locations to interview these folks, whether it be at Starbucks, whether it be at senior center, whether it be at a at any type of mutual center that we could find to get a chance to visit with these caregivers. So the world changed, and Honor was doing a lot of stuff that was innovative. So really, the first thing we did with workflow and really helping our operations, the engine run, was the caregiver piece. And if I can walk people through this, I mean, it literally used to take 3 to 4 weeks to bring a caregiver on. Now, mind you, 90% of the caregivers that we employ are looking for a job right now because they live paycheck to paycheck. And we got to figure out how to take that funnel, that recruitment funnel that was full of friction because there were so many requirements, whether it be I-9s, whether it be fingerprint clearance, whether it be background checks, drug screening, all that stuff would just delay getting that caregiver in the funnel and then back out. So we had to do things differently. So, one of the first things we did, Ruby, was we introduced doing digital interviewing. And it's scary. I mean, it really is. But I mean, we had in the old operation, the old paradigm that we were working in, we had a 4 phase interviewing process. And that 4 phase interviewing process was the phone call.
Mhm.
And we asked a lot of questions. And if they answered those questions correctly and they could speak English really well, they were invited for an interview. So then we scheduled an interview for them to come in. And if we really liked them in that interview, and not only was my HR person involved in that, my schedulers were involved in that, then they were invited into orientation. And then after orientation, if they got through orientation, we gave them a drug screen. They'd go get that drug screen, and then they would be ready to work. The entire processes was, when they came in for orientation, we'd have to scan or copy all those credentialing documents, all the stuff, driver's license, first aid, CPR, fingerprint clearance, and then we'd have to manually take it from the the copier scanner when it went into our email, then we'd have to populate it into the caregiver profile that was inactive. So a lot of human interaction. And as you can imagine, you can see why it could take 3 weeks to get somebody on. I mean, you got to do all the reference checks too. So we needed to make it a lot faster. So Ruby, I want to just come full circle and just tell you that we adopted some of the things that I saw, but I didn't really understand that Honor was doing. And then we did some things that are very different. First
Mhm.
and foremost, I want to let our audience know that technology makes things possible. It's humans that make things happen. Never lose sight of that. And so many people that work in the technology field, and this isn't an indictment on any of our technology professionals in home care, but technology in general, they're looking for transactions. It's all transactional. It's not relational. And in home care, it's very relational. Our experiences with our caregivers are very relational. Building those relationships with them is very relational. Our experiences with our clients and with their families is very relational. But if we can use technology to do the repetitive and redundant tasks that humans were doing, how great would this world be? And we could get people through that proverbial funnel as quickly as possible and get them to work. So just real quickly, now we still have a four-phase interviewing process. We're posted on 16 to 18 job boards every day. We have a collaborating partner with us that is going through all the applications, which is machines that are reviewing every single of those applicants, making sure they're within our state and inside our county and geographically located and desirable, have the experience that we're really looking for, right? So we need at least 1 year experience. We're also looking to see if if we get repetitive or should I say duplications. I mean, for all of us that do Indeed, we get served up these resumes 16 different ways, the same one. So we kick out all of those. So we have machines doing that. Then we have machines that, through our collaborating partner, it's all white labeled. They get introduced to doing and scheduling a interview. So scheduling an interview, they can do that through a Calendly type app, and then they schedule that first interview. That first interview is with my HR manager. And that first interview is set up for 10 minutes, but it literally only lasts four, maybe five, because we ask really one question: why? Why caregiving? We want to understand your why. We want to hear you talk about the why. We also want to see what you look like. We don't want any scary Mike Tyson tattoos or facial piercings. We don't, or should I say, we want you to be able to speak English, and that's really important because our clients speak English. So we can go ahead and decide to go forward or back or end it right there based on that very first interview. Every single one of those encounters is transcribed, summarized, and scored. Every single one of those encounters also is populated into our enterprise software solutions, into a caregiver profile that's inactive. So this way, remember how I said we're very relational? My HR manager can actually be looking at the screen, having the conversation with that prospect, that caregiver prospect, and be present, be authentic, be real, and be relational, and not have to worry about taking notes. Because we've only asked one question. We want to know the why. So if they get through that, then they get invited to a second interview. But in that second interview invitation is the requirement to upload your documents. Every single one of caregivers has these, right? So now you're instructed to upload your credentials. And when 80% of those credentials are uploaded, you're invited to schedule that second interview because half the job is to make sure, do they really want it? And if they
Yep.
really want it, they'll give us their credentialing. So you're invited for the second interview. The second interview is much more intensive. Now we want to know about your experience. We want to know what days you're available, geographies you want to cover, times that you're available. Are you allergic to cats and dogs? Are you okay with someone that smokes? We ask a lot of questions. That interview usually lasts about 30 minutes. Transcribed, summarized, scored, and then ported over into our enterprise software solution. The last phase of it is orientation. And the orientation happens in person. We want to see the whites of their eyes. We want to smell them. We want to see them. This is what our clients are going to see. You can't do that digitally. You've got to see them. You got to make sure they show up on time. And in that interview, it's the HR manager and it's the scheduler or schedulers. It's really important for those who are listening in here today. The scheduler is probably one of the most important positions in any home care agency. So, in order for a scheduler to be able to talk to a family or a client about a caregiver, they got to have met them. They've got to have been able to see them and talk to them. So, they're very important. In the old paradigm, that scheduler was the last stop. In the new one, they are too, and they give them the drug screen. I'm here, Ruby, to tell you that we are hiring caregivers in less than a week. and we have gotten all their credentialing. We've done it in 4 days, getting them through that funnel. So you asked me what one thing it was. That was the piece that we were concentrating on. When we came and emerged out of Honor, we basically had zero revenue. We were starting all over again. We weren't married to the old ways we were doing it, that old 4 phase interviewing process. Now we are doing 4 phases, but we've embraced and used technology, machine learning, and being able to use AI to be able to do a lot of this work for us. So I'll pause there. I said a lot, but I mean, being able to utilize tech to recruit and smooth out that recruitment funnel is everything. And making that experience real. I mean, being able to be engaged with somebody and not worried about typing everything down and not listening. Now we are totally listening because everything's being captured through the transcriptions and the summaries and the scoring.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful. I I particularly like the fact that you explained the before and after. You're not losing that connection, that relation. You're using technology to really empower, and you're using technology to um, still maintain that relationship. At the same time, you're getting more value within the less time that you're spending to hire. So that's amazing. Replacing all the repetitive tasks that frees up your staff's time and also reduces errors, and because now
So,
you
so
have everything recorded.
Ruby, we estimate that we're saving between 120 to 150 hours a month in human capital time. And for
Amazing.
those that are listening, just the the ability to scan all these documents and then it come into your email like it used to for us, and then we'd have to port it over into the caregiver profile. That was such a laborious task. Why would we have humans do those types of tasks when we can have machines do it?
Yeah,
Repetitive, redundant tasks. If you just teach the machine how to do it for you, let them do it.
yeah,
And you can do some of these interactions that are repetitive and redundant to the consumer, or to, in this case, the caregiver, um,
caregivers.
the caregivers. It
Yeah,
is it is transparent to them. It's white labeled as Cypress. They think it's humans, but it doesn't have to be relational. It's more task oriented, and
yeah.
then we give them the task, the next task to follow up.
And that actually gives you more, and that tells you more about them, whether you rightly mentioned, if they're seriously interested, they will upload their documents on time. And that's
Otherwise, we've invested 4 minutes of our time on
right,
average. And
right.
if they don't do it, then it just sits out there. You know, they're not really interested in coming aboard.
Exactly, exactly. So nice. Um, all right, it's so connected with what we just discussed. And here is where it gets really exciting. Automation doesn't just help with task management, it can actually surface insights you never had before. Like you mentioned, your interviews are recorded, they're scored, they're summarized. So it's giving you insights after the fact. So I'm sure you're using one of those, but AI tools can automatically capture data from notes, logs, schedules, calls, identify trends with whatever, late clock-ins, gaps, or mismatched client caregiver dynamics anywhere. It can actually find logs from anywhere. And if you can get those insights in real time, um, it creates a ripple effect. You can make faster decisions, better outcomes, and a much clearer view of what's happening on the ground. So that's what automation, data, insight that gives you. Now, question, Bob. How have insights from automation helped your leadership team make better decisions at Cypress?
Well, you know, I want to stay on the recruiting side because there's a whole Another part that we've introduced over the last year, because we really started working on the recruiting side late in 23, and we did all of that change in 24. I think first and foremost, look, caregivers are human, and caregivers do lack sometimes judgment and make mistakes. And I think one of the beautiful things about this whole recruiting side, and we've had this experience happen where, a caregiver has had an error in judgment and has done something, nothing terribly egregious other than like calling off maybe 3 times in the last 2 weeks or something like that, right? But, I often ask, what did we miss? How did this happen? The coolest thing about what did we miss and how did this happen is these encounters were all videotaped. These encounters were all transcribed and summarized. So I just asked my team, have you gone back and taken a look at the interview? Did you look back at the questions that were asked? What did we miss hiring this person that made us look really bad, not only to the client and the family, but to the referral source? So, we have an opportunity to be introspective and being able to really dig in and say, okay, what did we miss? How can we make the change so that this doesn't happen again? So, for me on the recruiting side, this is, yeah, a great tool for us because not only does it impact the fact that we don't have to do all this manual stuff, but it also gives us an opportunity to capture enough information to be able to go back and take a look and say, okay, what did we miss? So one of the things I wanted to share with you, Ruby, is that if I were to ask anyone that is attending today that is running their home care agency, what is your leaky bucket? And what do I mean? What is that leaky bucket? Where do we lose clients, prospective clients, caregivers? It all boils down to communications. And I am sorry, but this is not promoting dialogue. And I'm looking at this from a texting standpoint. This does, but texting and communicating is a monologue. It's not a dialogue. And
Yeah.
I often say to my schedulers when we have call-offs, I make it very clear that the best chance of solving that call-off is that person that's calling off. You need to get with them and help them understand that my fictitious client, Mrs. Abramson, needs you there at 9 a.m. to get her day started. And I know that you had something that you needed to do today, but you made a commitment to be there. I'm
Yeah.
not saying to guilt them, but that's their responsibility. And if they can't be there for the entire shift, ask him to be there for the first 2 hours because it's not fair for Mrs. Abramson, who's not going to get her day started. And I know you have a dentist appointment or you got a soccer practice for your daughter, whatever that is. But ask them to do that so scheduling can work a little bit harder to find a replacement. So one of the things that we did, that leaky bucket that I'm talking about, and I wish we had a lot of time because I would love to see what the audience would survey. I mean, you've got a lot of people here attending today, and that leaky bucket, ladies and gentlemen, is the phone. And I talk about the phone, and as much as we want to think that the world is very transactional, home care is very relational. And you've got to build a relationship and you've got to have a dialogue. The coolest thing that we've done with automation and technology is that every single one of our encounters on phones that started at the beginning of 2025 is now recorded, transcribed, and summarized. And it is connected to our enterprise software solution so that when a caregiver calls, we all are using the same phone system. So when a caregiver calls, we can see the caregiver calling because we see their number. Every one of those encounters, whether it be a call off, whether it be, hey, I wanted to let you know Mrs. Abramson had a great day. I want to tell you that Mrs. Smith wants to expand hours. All of those encounters are captured and ported over into the caregiver profile. Same could be said for the client. We're now recording every single encounter. But the best part is leads when people call. Now, I'm going to tell you, my nephew, who is my chief of staff, when he joined me less than 3 years ago, I asked him, there's 700 home care companies here in Arizona, in Maricopa County. I asked him to call and secret shop home care companies. Little did I know he was going to call almost 70 of them, almost 70, 10% of them, but he called all of them.
Oh,
And
wow.
and to his amazement, he said, Uncle Bobby, he said, two-thirds of them either didn't answer the phone, it went to a voice recording, it went to a computer prompting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your lifeline, your phone. You have to answer the phone because that prospect was giving more than one number. You think you might be the best there is. They were given two or three numbers. And if you don't answer that phone, somebody else is going to answer that phone. So using tech and innovation and really talking about, you know, being able to be more proficient at what you do, you need to be able to capture every single caller. And again, it's saving so much time because you don't have to type it in, you don't have to write it down. You can be present. I mean, up on our SharePoint, for every prospect that calls, there's 12 bullets. My team knows them by now, but these are questions that you need to ask. But you need to listen. God gave you one mouth, two ears. Listen to what the client is saying or prospective client. It usually is the adult child. And you need to be present. You need to empathize. You don't need to say, so, what assistive devices do they use? I mean, they haven't even told you yet. Find out what is going on. Let them know that you're here to help. Oftentimes when people call, they're literally on the ledge and they are at their wits' end. They don't know what to do, and you're there to help problem solve. So I want to step back, Ruby, and just tell you every single one of those encounters transcribed, recorded, scored, and put into a lead profile. It can get directly into a caregiver profile because it identifies it by phone number, as well as client profile. It identifies it by number. So again, we're saving hundreds of hours on a monthly basis by having machines do a lot of this work for us.
Yeah, yeah, beautifully said, Bob. And I can relate to this so much because I have been with CareSmartz for 10 years, and I have 10 years worth of data when agencies came to us and came came with some problem statements, what they're struggling with, and that gives us everything. Now I know if I'm talking to someone, then I can already understand from my historical data that this solution can help this problem. So I'm more knowledgeable with data insights. So it's applicable to every one of us. If we are reading data, getting insights, it really, really helps. And it saves time, of course.
It,
Technologies.
it, it does. And guys, there's so many different companies out there that are providing new technology and monitoring services in the home. And we're
Yes.
using one right now. And Ruby, just to piggyback on what you're talking about, having these monitors in the home, being able to predict and protect the clients that we serve is
Yep.
so vital. I mean, people want to stay at home, right?
Right.
So we're utilizing it, and full transparency, it's something you don't offer, so I want to make it very clear. Sensi, and some of you guys have heard about Sensi, and it's acoustic monitoring, and we're able to provide intervention when we can feel like there's a possible fall. You know, we can detect those changes in obviously one's gait, and their stability, their activity, and the greatest thing about it is we can intervene. If a client is getting up multiple times a night, and AI is embedded into this thing, and we have established the patterns, and we know my fictitious client, Mrs. Abramson, usually only gets up two times a night, and now she's gotten up seven. There's a problem. Ding, 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 there's a problem. So we need to go in and figure out what that is. Oftentimes it could be attributed to a UTI. It could be something else. So you talk about establishing and utilizing technology, and I look at this slide that you have up here with graphs and all kinds of measurements, you name it. I mean, those are the things that we're getting from our technology provider in the home so we can diagnose changes in conditions.
Thank you, Bob. And these aren't just theoretical benefits that Bob is referring to. Bob and his team at Cypress saw real results. And I will let Bob talk about these real results because these are really great, great statistics and great numbers. And I won't steal that thrill from you, Bob.
No, I think we've talked a lot about that. The one thing, Ruby, I will share is this is about 90 days in the making. Because we were successful on the recruiting side and really smoothing out that recruiting funnel, utilizing automation and AI, we've done that on the inbound call side. The encounter that I really wanted to truly get was the experience in the home. And for those that are listening today, the central nervous system of any home is usually the kitchen or it's the family room. And I know people are probably nodding, yes, the kitchen, because that's where we usually sit down and meet and have a conversation. So, for me, you know, I remember the days when I would have 16 pieces of paper that I used to have every single one of my clients have to initial sign. It just was so laborious, and I would be filling it out right there with my head down and
Yeah.
not intentionally speaking and being relational and authentic and real with the clients that I'm engaging with. So wanted to use automation and tech in the home, and we've successfully done that over the last 90 days. I will tell you that Arizona is a one-way recording state, and we don't have to announce to our clients, our prospective clients, that we're recording the encounter, but we do. We want to be sensitive for, privacy reasons, so we ask them for permission right up front. And then when we turn on the recorder device, which is really, really small, I mean, it's amazing what technology has today, and all that gets uploaded wirelessly too, which is really slick. But we record that too. We say to the client, if it was my fictitious client, Mrs. Abramson, I would say, Mrs. Abramson, we're going to record this call. I just want to say, are you okay with this? So that they're okay with it. But we're recording the entire encounter so that we're not head down, we're not typing, we're not writing, we're present, we're asking questions, we're being real. They want to see that, we want to see that, and we're not missing anything. We're capturing everything. I mean, look, they tell you a lot. And if Mrs. Abramson's telling me about Mr. Abramson being a really big baseball fan, and I didn't capture that, I missed something to be able to give to that caregiver to really have a conversation and a very thoughtful conversation. And this person may be a New York Yankees fan, and here we are in New York. Yankee games are on television 3, 4, 5 times a week. That's a great engagement for me to have with Mr. Abramson, or just talking about the game last night.
Yeah.
So, really, really important. You can capture everything utilizing automation and using machine learning to be able to do that. And by the way, that entire encounter is ported over into a client profile, inactive client before they become client, and it populates in all the necessary fields. You still have to go back and check. I just want people to realize that it doesn't do it completely 100% perfectly. It's pretty darn close, but go back and reread everything, make whatever manual adjustments you have to, but it is saving so much time to be able to use machine learning.
Absolutely, absolutely. Um, just one quick question. I don't know. In your 90-day period, the results that you saw, was there anything surprising for you about those results? Or were you expecting similar results from technology? Because you have so much experience working
Right.
with technology. Did
You
anything
know,
surprise you?
well, I think the one thing I will tell you is that we're converting at a higher rate. And one of the things that did change a lot since COVID is that we used to be able to keep a client on the phone. Remember, we want a dialogue. We've been able to keep, if we were able to keep a client on the phone 7 minutes or more, we had a 94% conversion rate. And Nowadays, prior to doing a lot of this, it was less than 50%. I mean, it,
Wow.
and the biggest headwind is cost, right? The cost of our services are up 40%, if not more, since 2019. So cost is a really big barrier. And you and I did a podcast. I talked to you about what we're doing on fractional care and on-demand care, and we're still doing that. And I know that this session here isn't here to discuss that, but we have to reimagine care. We have to deliver it in very different ways. So I want to go back and answer your question. We are converting more clients because we are being present. We
Yes.
are being there in their presence, and we are thoroughly engaging with them. And typically, my care service coordinators, when they're in the home, what they do is beyond having that engagement in the kitchen, they take a tour of the home. Obviously, we want to do a home safety evaluation, but we're always asking a lot of questions. So, we get to, pictures of family members. Oh, tell me about this picture. Who is this? We need to be engaged. One of the things I always say to my team members, and it's one question, did you develop a relationship? And the relationship is finding something in common. Yeah, I mentioned baseball before, but it could be dogs, it could be music, it could be, sightseeing, it could be, travel, whatever that is. As this is a human business, we need to be connecting with them. And by the way, all this information we're getting is going to be helpful to building the care plan and giving caregivers information about this prospective client so that they can thoroughly engage with them. So, to answer your question, we are converting more clients because we're being more authentic, more real, and more relational in our encounters.
That's the beauty of gathering data, insights, and really be mindful of what you are doing and how you are gaining from that. That's amazing. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Now let's talk about our caregivers, the heart of every agency. Uh,
100%.
Yeah, so mobile apps are a game changer here since EVV has come to play, or after COVID or during COVID, that was really a good tool where caregivers can document their visits, schedules, and receive care plan updates in real time. It really empowers them, right? And I believe it also reduces burnout. I was reading. See, there is a research gate here. The use of mobile apps can lead to a 12.5 decrease in the probability of a caregiver feeling overwhelmed by their tasks. Um, so that's a beautiful data. It's not just operational efficiency, it's like an emotional relief as well. Um, so Bob, how did your caregivers react when you introduced these mobile tools? Were there any concerns at first? Because I meet with a lot of agencies where caregivers are not really open for technology. But if there were any concerns, how did you really address them if there were any?
Well, for me, we do a little bit of Medicaid business. So for those that are on this webinar, the Cures Act, which was initially uh, launched in 2018, required all of us to go EVV. And even though, we were using time cards and other ways to be able to, you know, monitor, making sure that, the care plan was being followed and what hours they were doing. I mean, we now went to EVV. And that was in 2018. And they kept pushing it out to 2019, 2020. I mean, they gave it took a long time for the
Long
adoption.
time. Yeah,
A
even
long time.
22, I've seen states going EVV compliant. So
And Ruby, I'm going to tell you that when someone tells me they're going to do something, I really believe it. So back in 2018, I had a lot of caregivers that didn't have smartphones.
yeah.
Now I think they all do. I mean, a lot of them had dumb phones. I had clients that did not have devices in the home. So I procured nearly 50 of these devices so that we could be EVV compliant. Matter of fact, I just sent them to the scrapyard through our our technology provider because it's 7-year-old technology and it doesn't really work on the
Yeah.
platforms today, but everyone has a device. So, for me, it was a little bit easier because of that. I'll tell you that one of the challenges we had was obviously the older adults, and I talk about not clients, but the older caregivers that we have adopting to utilizing EVV. But I mean, I think more importantly is utilizing our devices to not only check the boxes for the care plan and obviously for the attendance, right? Clocking in, clocking out, but also I really, I need my caregivers and my caregivers hear this all the time is that because our enterprise software solution has the family portal, we want notes. We want notes on how the day went. So we do incentivize people to put notes in. We encourage them, but we don't incentivize people for clocking in and clocking out. They're supposed to do that for their job, but we do incentivize them for sharing notes. And sharing notes is really important, not only for my care coordinators because they read those notes and they want to know how the day went for my fictitious client, Mrs. Abramson, but they also it's for the family members to see the notes because there's so many family members that are working. They're in that sandwich generation. They're raising kids. They have their parents that they're caring for. They don't have time to maybe contact my scheduler or go to the home and visit the caregiver, but they can read the caregiver notes and they can see that mom went to her doctor's appointment or she went and got her hair done, just to see how the day went. So it's really, really important. So empowering caregivers to do that wasn't easy. I think we were an earlier adopter to do it because of the Cures Act and EVV, but it's got to be further than just clocking in and clocking out with the GPS fences. And by the way, I talked to you about doing fractional care and doing it on demand in the communities. Guess what? It doesn't work really well in those communities because they're vertical communities, and Mrs. Abramson could be in room 109, and then Mrs. Smith could be over there in 121, and it can't discern the difference. So it's got to
Yeah.
be more than just clocking in and clocking out.
I agree, 100%. Yes. And your caregivers should understand the value of that piece of technology. It's not just really verifying their visits or making sure they're there. It's making sure that the families know what's happening during the day. So
Right.
that's really
Well,
great.
they want to know. I mean, look,
Yes.
and so many of them feel guilty. They really do because
Ah,
they can't
yeah,
be there.
and be there.
You, you know, uh, listen, with the advent of technology and travel, that nuclear family that existed the last century doesn't really exist today because children, and I'm a great example. I've got two that live in LA and I got one that lives in Rockville, Maryland, and here I am in Arizona. And that's typical. I mean, the
Yeah.
average distance from an adult child to the parent that they care for and love is about 280 miles. And we discovered that when we did this one report through HomeCare Association of America back in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree 100%. Um, Now, here's where we shift from reacting to predicting. With the right tools, we can proactively identify potential issues, right? Like a no-show before it really happens, or schedule conflicts, or any administrative insight based on the data that we have. So AI is not just a buzzword anymore. This isn't just nice to have. I believe it's where home care is headed now. So Bob, what's that one, maybe just one predictive use case that really moved the needle? Because I know you're very technology focused and you have used AI, you have been an early adopter. So what's that one use case that really moved the needle for Cypress? Maybe it's in client care or maybe having those devices in clients' home that really gives you the insight. But let's just talk about that one thing.
It really is the monitors in the home. That is really, look, we're all on this journey, and this journey called life, and the clients that we serve, we have the honor of being able to help that final chapter of their life.
Mhm.
And as I said earlier, I mean, they want to stay at home. We want to provide them an opportunity to stay at home. The cost of our services have gone up so high. I mean, look, $40 an hour is not uncommon here, and it's not uncommon in a lot of markets, but to get 168 hours of care a week, that's 24/7, 365 days a year. That's $350,000 with after-tax dollars. So we are finding more and more, and I'm sure our listeners here today too are finding out more and more that people are waiting longer, and that's unfortunate. And they don't technically have the resources. We all know here on this webinar that there are four payroll sources. It's private funds, which now we call family funds. It's VA benefits, Medicaid, and long-term care insurance. And
Yeah.
very few have bought long-term care insurance. And this generation coming up is going to be fewer than the last. So the cost of our services are really high. So having some type of remote monitoring, and I'm not here to do a commercial for Sensi because there are others that are out there, but to be able to use AI in the home to predict and protect that person. And I use the example of the UTI and even falls. And let's face it, falls. And I know right now it's September and it's National Falls Awareness Month. So it's a really good opportunity to be talking about this. Falls are between falls and medication mismanagement for 65 and older people, that represents almost 50% of the ER visits. So if we can detect these things happening in the home, and as I said, the cost of our services have gotten so expensive that we are being engaged to provide care in the home, usually during the day parts. I mean, everyone wants you during the wake hours so that we can get your loved one up in the morning. We can get them, their medication that they need. We can make sure that they're fed, clean, and safe, and get to their doctor's appointments, whether it be chemotherapy or dialysis. We can do all of those things for them. So the goal is to say, look, we'll provide a wraparound service. So when we're not there, we still have that type of monitoring. So to be able to diagnose a change in someone's condition and intervene and be able to have people come into the home to help, whether it be physical therapy, whether it be, a visit by a concierge doc or a nurse. I mean, the beautiful thing, Ruby, is I see a world where home has to be the center of care.
Yeah.
There won't be enough assisted living or independent living. The numbers, the data speaks volumes for that. I mean, the 65-year-old population is doubling in 25 years, and the 85-year-old population is going to nearly quadruple. The stressors that are going to be put on our healthcare system are going to be huge. This is why I think home care is a great place to be. For those that might be second guessing yourselves, don't, because this is where we need to be. We need to be that catalyst. We need to be that point of entry. We are the tip of the spear. We see changes in condition before anyone else. So to answer your question, Ruby, we can do so much in the prediction side
Yeah.
by monitoring the home.
True, true. I agree 100%. I know we don't have a lot of time, but I have a very good example of what CareSmartz did recently in their AI predictive analysis. It really captures the data from caregivers, day to day, based on their maybe the if they are clocking in and clocking out on time, that's just one thing. But submitting notes, interacting with families, how their communication is, are they doing enough hours that they requested? Based on all of that trend, CareSmartz gives that predictive analysis about their score, like churn. You can call it churn score or loyalty score or anything, but you can really, if someone is not happy, then you can know just from reading from that data, you can know and you can manage that relationship well. So it helps. So there are a lot of data points that we can all really learn from. So we were talking about technology, and one of the most important points today, technology should never feel a threat for your team. It's not going to replace the team. It's going to empower them. It's not a replacement at all. Many agencies that I talk to and I deal with, I go to the conferences, I meet with people, and I feel that still people believe that if they have AI, for example, ChatGPT, it's not going to take away anyone's jobs. It's just making it easy. Um, we believe automation should support, not replace, as I said. So, Bob, you have always emphasized a human first approach. How do you communicate that message to your staff or the people that you meet? I know you attend a lot of events and you meet with a lot of companies, a lot of people in the industry. How do you really communicate that message to them and if, for your staff specifically when you are rolling out any new technology?
So it's interesting. You mentioned chat. Okay, so
Right.
obviously there's so many large language model, you
Yeah.
know, uh, type of generative AIs that are out there. Everyone on my team, I've made it very clear. If you're not using ChatGPT, then you're going to be left behind.
Yeah.
Chat is only going to make your work much easier. I use it every day in the work that I do. I mean, look, I'm going to be very transparent with everybody. I've been using chat for almost 2.5 years.
Yeah.
I've written for a publication here in town for 16 years. My chief of staff, when he gave me my chat account 2.5 years ago, he gave it to me and he said, I embedded all your articles in there. So chat already knows how you write, which is really it's an important thing because you want your style, the way you write, the way you talk to be embedded in there so that when you are requesting things, it comes out with your words. So, I and a lot of my communications, I mean, I'll free form a lot of it. I'll put it in, a certain order, but then I'll put it over there. Um, I didn't learn till maybe about 14, 16 months ago. There's a whole voice application to it as well. So if you guys haven't discovered that, it's really cool. So my recommendation to you is that tell all your team members to use chat. There's a free version, but I would urge you to pay for it because the free version is open source to everybody. When you pay for it, it's supposed to be locked down. So, obviously, I would I would I would be mindful to not use and share personal health information or any information about something that could be a violation of HIPAA or personal health information. But writing styles, communications, when I'm doing a post and I want to throw a whole bunch of emojis in there, you know how long it takes to find those emojis? And I can just ask chat to do it. So it's not cheating. It's making you more efficient. It's your words, it's your request, it's your presentation. It's still you. It's how do we become more efficient in the work that we do every single day so that we can be more relational and we can be more intentional and we can really help these folks that are really challenged every single day in caring for the people that they love and helping them through this journey. So, I think everybody should be using, again, I've said this before, we need to be more relational with our clients, their families, and the caregivers that are serving the families that we care for. And if we can use tools like automation tools like ChatGPT to help us refine our words, help us streamline whatever we're working on, and more importantly, making us efficient. I think that is really the message that I want to convey to our listeners here today.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Absolutely. So there's always this hybrid model, and there's an emphasis on a human first approach still. You use chat tools, you use AI tools, but this has to be hybrid. There is always
You,
relation that comes first, for
you
sure.
know, you know, Ruby, crafting an email today is so easy for me today. I do a lot of free forming, whether it be in a Word document or maybe even in the email itself. But
Mhm.
I'll port it over to chat and just ask chat to professionalize it, correct any grammar errors, and polish it up. And it's my words.
Absolutely.
And I'm conveying my thoughts. It's just doing it in a way that I don't have to sit there and examine every single piece of sentence
Yeah.
structure or every paragraph. I mean, that is being done for me to perfect that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Bob. That's really insightful. Now, the final slide is how do we get started? So if you're wondering where to start, start small. Pick the most time-consuming task, like maybe timesheet reviews, payroll sync, and just pilot an automation solution there. Get few team members on board. I'm sure, Bob, you must have started like that. There are always early adopters. There's always a team member who's really ready to jump on, and just gather their feedback and then expand. So, Bob, if you have been there, you have done that. But if someone's overwhelmed by the idea of automation, what's your advice on choosing that first step?
Well, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, it can't be driven completely from the top down. I think the way we need to message this is to help people understand we're going to make your jobs much more efficient. We're not replacing you. We want to make you more efficient so that you can do your job better. And then ultimately deliver what we're looking for is exceptional care to the clients that we serve. So I think what we need to do more than anything is really understand our workflows and more importantly, the standard procedures, the standard operating procedures, the PMPs that we have in place, and examine them and see where you can have machines do repetitive and redundant tasks. I know I went through our whole recruiting model, but I mean, why would you have a human do something that is so laborious and something that a human doesn't have to do? Let the machines do that so that you can be more present and look at the KPIs, look at what's going on with the relationship between the caregiver and the client. Look at specifically maybe call-offs. Look at specifically maybe changes in conditions and how we can adapt for those. So, for me, it's taking a step back and realizing how can we make our team more productive? Looking at the standard operating procedures, those SOPs that you have, and hopefully you have those, but looking at ways to streamline and be more efficient. We want to make our employees more efficient in what they do so that we can get the best outcome. And what is the best outcome? That is having our clients stay in their home for the length of time that is possible. And what we want is the longest length of time. And that's what they want, and that's what we want. So, really, I think at every single home care agency that has not adopted this, I think it's it is an imperative for the agency owner or general manager to bring and coalesce their team together and say, you know what, there's a new way and there's a better way. And let's build this together. And I think that's the most important thing. Not driving it from the top down, but let's build this together. There's so many tools out there that are affording us the opportunity to innovate. And I've said this before, in order to innovate, you need to collaborate. And collaborating with people like CareSmartz360, collaborating with other vendors that could be able to assist you to do your job great. Because it's hard for home care agencies to develop these things. We can't do this on our own. We're small, but we're mighty. We're making a difference in the lives of the people we serve, but we don't have time to create these innovations. They're out there. We just need to partner and collaborate with the ones that can help us do our job the best it can be.
Absolutely. Thank you, Bob.
Oh, you're
And
welcome.
also provide plenty of training and support while you are launching or implementing a technology system or even a small tool. I think everyone flourishes when provided enough support and training and guidance, then everything is possible.
Ruby, I'll share with you. I have an employee that is coming up on 70 years old.
Oh,
And, she was one of those that resisted. But now that she's gotten it, she has got
yeah.
it. She doesn't know how I would live without it. Oh my gosh, all this is being transcribed and ported out into the EMR that we use. That is so fascinating. You've made my job so much easier. So,
Yeah.
you will have those people that push back,
Yes.
and don't push back equally as hard. Just
Mm.
enlighten them. Bring them
Yes.
along a little bit slower, but when they see the value in tech and innovation and the machine learning, they'll get it. Just like Renee got it on my team.
Wow. Thank you, Bob, for sharing this.
Oh, you're welcome.
That's really inspiring. All right, so we're coming to the end of it, and we are right at the top of the hour. So we will encourage everyone to send your questions our way. When we send this recording out, you'll get our emails. We have our contact information at the end of this presentation. End of the webinar, you'll see email addresses, LinkedIn profiles, and everything. And you can share all your questions. We would be happy to answer.
I will tell you, Ruby, I love the way you kick things off. And I love the fact that you kicked it off and you had everybody put into the chat their LinkedIn address. And, I'm a big proponent of sharing and sharing best practices. And there's no better medium out there than LinkedIn. And if you have not linked into Ruby or myself or other influencers in our industry, you should, because there are a lot of times where we feel like we're all alone.
Yeah.
We don't have access to other home care agency owners. We're in the fight every single day to make sure that we have every shift covered, have every caregiver coming into the funnel and getting out the funnel so that we can keep up with the demand. But we need those resources, and I applaud you, Ruby, and CareSmartz360 for doing this webinar, but also encouraging people to share their LinkedIn. And it's not so much sharing with me and Ruby, it's all of you out there. Share with one another what's working for you. And
Yeah.
we're going to be a better industry, and we're going to serve the population, one of the most vulnerable populations, in the best way they can be.
Absolutely. Huge thanks to you, Bob, for
Oh,
this
you're welcome.
insightful conversation. Thank you for spending this time with us today. And thank you to all of our listeners for your thoughtful engagement, for dropping in your LinkedIn profiles and being engaged in the conversation. If you haven't already, let's connect on LinkedIn. You can search Bob Roth or Ruby Mehta. You'll find us for sure if you don't have our LinkedIn IDs handy. You can follow us on LinkedIn, and we keep posting these discussions on LinkedIn, and we will email you the recording as promised. Thank you so much, everyone, and thank you, Bob, again.
Thank you, Ruby. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. We'll talk soon.
Thank you. Bye bye.